But today was always spent, as most days are, with this anti-police narrative, anti-law enforcement narrative. And normally, and also a narrative that says being black in this country is awful, it's terrible, it's the worst thing ever. And so normally, when I look at the activities, I've pulled up some statistics which refutes the ideas of CNN and others. CNN has slow news days all the time, which is why whenever something happens, they're telling us things are falling apart. And CNN, MSNBC are selling ads off misery. If a genuine horror takes place, such as the death of George Floyd, and that was a murder, there's no effort whatsoever to remind America how statistically rare such incidents are. It is extremely rare. And if you watch some of the testimony of Heather McDonald, so far this year there's been about 7. Last year there were a total of 9 unarmed black men shot by police. 9, resulting in 3 or 4 criminal charges. It is extremely rare for police officers or any white person or the police to shoot an African American. Extremely rare. In fact, of all the black homicide victims last year in the year 2019, only 0.2%, listen to that number, 0.2% involved unarmed victims of police homicide. And the majority of those were justified. That means 99.8% did not involve the police at all. In fact, in Chicago last year, there were 492 homicides. 90% were black on black, and 3 of 492 involved police shooting, of which 2 of the 3 were justified, 1 was not. And that cop in Chicago has been indicted. So 1 police homicide in the city of Chicago out of 492, which, shall I say, is somewhat low. But if somebody, without using facts as their springboard for reason, would look at some of these statistics, you would think, how is it possible? You get the idea by watching Don Lemon or Wolf Blitzer that cops are killing black men all the time. And that simply is not the case. For many years, the Department of Justice and the CDC and the Washington Post and Harvard have kept statistics. In fact, for the last 5 years, police have killed on average about 1,000 civilians a year. The majority of those are armed or otherwise dangerous. In 2019, the police killed a total of 235 blacks out of 1,000, which, one death is too many, but statistically, that's roughly 25% of those that are killed by police. As far as white Americans, the number is 51%. So, in the 75 largest U.S. counties, which is where most of the population resides, take the 75 largest counties. Of course, most of my stations are in the large counties. Take 75, the largest U.S. counties. Blacks constituted about 60% of the robberies and murder defendants as identified by the victims, according to the FBI. But they comprise only 15% of the population in those counties. As far as fatal police shootings, Washington Post database. Fatal police shootings showed 9 unarmed black victims and 19 unarmed white victims in the entire year of 2019. All those other ones were, by any fair estimate, justified. Unarmed. 9 black, 19 white. The number of black unarmed victims is down 76% from 2015, when the Post began keeping the records. And the term unarmed loosely to include suspects who have grabbed an officer's gun or is fleeing from a cop or loaded semi-automatic in the back of their vehicle. These 9 unarmed black victims represent, listen to this number, 0.1% of all black homicide victims, which is 7,500 per year, and more than all white and Hispanic homicides combined. So what it means is also, the Washington Post is now showing 15 unarmed victims so far in the year 2020. 15, which is still less than 0.1% of all black homicide victims. Did you know that from watching CNN? Did you know that from watching by reading the New York Times? No, none of this stuff. And so I have page after page of white individuals killed by police, which is twice the number of blacks killed. And what's important is that sometimes the rate or whatever is being used Police shootings are a function of the rate at which officers encounter armed and violent suspects. So you can't take, 70% of the population is white and 12% is black. But still, if there was an effort by law enforcement to kill black defendants, the numbers would be completely different. It isn't in the population in general. It's the race of those the police confront who are armed and violent. The Philadelphia Police Department had an analysis in 2015. It found that white police officers were less likely than black or Hispanic to shoot so-called unarmed black suspects. So if you're white, it's extremely rare to shoot a black unarmed suspect, which is still under 0.1% of the homicides. Do you get that from watching CNN tonight? Oh my God, it's not even close. So we need reality checks. We need to have a media that actually reports facts. Facts matter. And for everyone that's awful, George Floyd, the GoFundMe page has $15 million in it for the family, and he ought to get more. That was a murder. That was terrible. What Chauvin did to him was wrong. Because of what's happened in the media, in 2015, 16, 17, and 18, officers have retreated to their cars. An additional 2,000 black men have died every year, according to Harvard economist Roland Fryer, because of passive policing that's happening. There's passive. If you're a white cop and you involve yourself with a black defendant, believe, I can't speak for white cops anymore, I speak for white men. But you know going in that you're in trouble if that person dies, which is even more shocking what happened in Atlanta Friday night with Officer Garrett Rolfe. Doing it again, he wouldn't have chased him. He had his ID, he had his car, had his license plate number. And of course, Brooks was drunk, not acting normally. But if Rolfe had to do it again, think he would have shot him? Hell no. And why he did it in the first place is beyond me. Calvin, why he had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, I have no clue as to why that happened. But the idea that the police are out to assassinate and kill for political purposes large numbers of black men is wrong. CNN, MSNBC, ABC News knows it is wrong, and they keep publishing information that may be factually accurate on the face of what they're saying. But in reality, they know they're lying to the American people, and it's simply not true. I honor tonight Captain David Dorn, the St. Louis 38-year detective that was murdered, and also Officer David Underwood, Homeland Security officer, that was murdered. There's been something in the range of 6 cops killed in the past 2.5 weeks, except for my mentioning them. Do you know any of their names? Majority were black, including in Florida 2 days ago, a wildlife officer was murdered who was black. But unless the media can use the killing to advance a political cause, they ignore it. And they don't tell you that police violence against unarmed black men is extremely rare, under 0.1% of all black homicides. But you don't get that because it doesn't fit. The ratings are bad, and they want to create a crisis as much as they can to sell ads. And that's what's behind this. Passive policing is what is costing black lives in America today. So let's continue. Coming up later, I have a nice postcard here from a Seattle listener.